Wellness Wednesday. I am Laurel Brennan. I'm here with Falyn Morningstar. Welcome, Falyn.
Hello, how are you guys? Happy to be here.
Great to have you with us tonight. We're going to talk about minerals and optimizing minerals for overall health and brain health in particular here in our Facebook group, Brain Wellness and Dementia Prevention. So I know you had a busy day, and I appreciate you taking time out of your busy day to be with us this evening. I'm going to jump right in and start with your bio. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
And I should probably have asked you this ahead of time, but do you want to take questions at the end?
Yeah, if there are any, sure.
Okay. So I'll just put that out there. If anybody wants to type comments in the comment section, let us know. We will check them out at the end. Okay, so Falyn Morningstar graduated in 2015 with a bachelor's in business management, concentrating in international management with minors in both geography, earth science, and Spanish. While working in the engineering department for a municipality, she decided to go back to school to pursue a master's degree in environmental engineering. Falyn has also had a passion for physical fitness, which has paralleled her career choices. She has earned 2 powerlifting records, nice, with Revolution Powerlifting Syndicate, and became a personal trainer to help family and friends learn how to weightlift. After going through a health crisis at age 26 with hormone and gut dysfunction, she made major lifestyle shifts. And in 2021, Falyn became a certified functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner, the methodology she credits in saving her life from a future life of autoimmunity and disease. With this certification, she empowers others to create a holistic lifestyle with functional lab testing, functional lab screenings for balancing and happiness. Yay. Thanks.
Ooh, thank you.
So beyond the bit that I just read from your heart, just go ahead and share what is your journey to kind of got you where you are today, your personal story.
Yeah, thank you for asking. It gets me an opportunity to actually think about like, okay, well, how did I actually get here? So really it starts with curiosity. Like if you feel or know that something is off in your system, it's having that curiosity to dig a little bit deeper and find that out, because you are your best advocate. So as I was going into the fitness industry and training like a maniac, and then just feeling so depleted, and at the time I was on the hormonal birth control pill, which I had been on for a decade, and just learning about the female cycle, because we're not really taught that. So it's about the curiosity, like, okay, and asking the questions, why do I feel like this? Why am I even taking the birth control pill? Is there, or why am I overeating? Why am I so addicted to sweets? It's just being curious about your system. Why am I so reactive to this relationship? And it's just learning more about you and being in your personal power. I think for a lot of my life, still very much learning. I was very not expressive to what I was feeling, very indecisive. Like, what do I actually want? And that's why you might have guessed I have like just such a wide array of a background: business, engineering, health, powerlifting. So it's having that curiosity to explore of what do I actually want to do with my life, because we're all here in this space one time. So each thing that you experience molds into a puzzle about your life. And that's why Laurel and I are talking today specifically on minerals and just how important they are to our body, because as our environment continues to change, whether that's with the pesticides on the food, the air quality, the water quality, all of that impacts our biology, and also impacting, what happened in our past. What traumas did our family go through? Did we go through as a child? All molds us into how we interact in our relationships, how our adrenals function, how our nervous system function, and our digestive system. So it's all molded together, and it's super easy to get overwhelmed with all of these things, but it's just the one day at a time and just staying calm and being curious about life and to learn more about you. So I know that was a long-winded way of like a little bit more of my history, but as I am finding, my family history plays a big part in what I'm going through and how I'm healing as everybody. So what we're going to chat about today is really like the nutritional piece of what it means to have optimal health. And we're going to tie in a particular set of minerals to be curious about, of implementing into your life. So Laura, I don't know if you want to like ask a different question, but I feel like
I have, is it okay if I ask for clarification? So if you
yes,
willing to share, was there something in your life that triggered you to say, I'm going to go to this, let me check the letters again, this certified functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner. What took you away from engineering to nutrition? What was the catalyst there? You got curious about something.
Right. Thank you for asking that. I love that redirection. So how I got curious, I was lifting about 6 days a week. I was starting to have insomnia. I was starting to feel very fatigued, could not recover from my workouts even 3-4 days afterwards. Like I said, I was still in the birth control pill. When my quote cycle would come around on the pill, it was not what I would consider normal. It was changing throughout the years. So I was like, okay, well, what is going on here? I was losing a decent amount of hair, and I do already have thin hair. So it was just these symptoms that were coming up that I was like, okay, like what's going on? I thought that I was eating like a healthy, clean diet. I was also working for a supplement company. So I was like doing the bodybuilding stuff. I was being educated, and I thought this was, okay, this is cool, but what's going on? So I reached out to my family practitioner and said, I think there's some hormonal things going on. Like, what do you suggest? Mind you, I have no idea about functional health or really about health in general. And he said, well, you look fine. I mean, like, I don't really know how to help. There was no testing that he recommended, even though I suggested the hormone, can I test my hormones? And he was like, well, it'll be about $100 a pop for each hormone, testosterone, estrogen, et cetera. I was like, okay, well, he didn't help. So I reached out to my gynecologist, and I was like, I've decided to not take the hormonal birth control pill anymore. I'm not active. I feel like I don't even need it. My cycle, when it comes around, is just acting odd. She really didn't help. She just said, okay, well, do you want to be on another form of contraceptive? So it was no really like support or educational piece about what I was going through and what I was experiencing with the symptoms. So 2 practitioners were not helpful. And I was like, okay, well, where do I turn? And so I had a mutual friend that was involved in this company called Functional Diagnostic Nutrition. And the friend of mine was getting testing done. And I'm such a huge nerd, obviously with the engineering background, love data, love to know more about myself. And I was like, can you please just share more information about your testing? Maybe I can get some testing done as well. So we went through that process, and I got some testing done. The first one being a food sensitivity test, because I was feeling that bloating along with the insomnia, feeling a bit just off, like no energy at all. So the food sensitivity test opened my eyes up to, wow, I had no idea I was this sensitive to broccoli, to green peppers. The specific test gives us such a beautiful visual of 170 different foods and substances, of how your red blood cells interact with these foods and substances. So once I got that back, I was like, okay, well, wow, this helped, not the root cause. What more can I do? So it's, again, being curious. So that's kind of how I got my foot into the functional health side.
Right. And then you went through the certification, and now you're helping other people figure out root cause issues.
Yeah. So one test after another, I was like, this is fascinating. More people need to know about this. And just so many people are struggling. So I felt like I needed to go through the certification. And last year I got that. And to this day, I've just been helping those figure out where these symptoms are coming from. We're not looking at the symptoms per se, we're looking much deeper than that. And as I'm learning and growing, it is very deep. And it's not like we have to go into the particular story of where it actually came from, but we need to look at, okay, what organs aren't functioning properly? Why isn't our liver detoxifying? The basic pieces, the very simple pieces, not, why do I keep having a headache? Like that's a symptom, but let's look much deeper. Why is that a symptom? Is your nervous system just maybe can't handle the job? Is the light exposure just too much for you? Is it too many hours under a specific light exposure? So yeah, as I'm learning and growing, there's just, it's like you don't know what you don't know, and we don't know a lot, but we can help the next person know what we know and just continue to learn and bounce ideas off of each other, because we're also just so individualized and so different.
Once you start asking why over and over again, it's just like peeling back layers of the onion. You kept getting deeper and deeper, and sometimes more questions come up. But I like that you started with stay curious, and that you are your own best advocate. Okay, so let's jump into kind of the topic of the evening, which is minerals. So specifically, we're talking about iron, copper, and magnesium. Is that right? Do you have anything specific you want to share about those three minerals, or should we start off in a more broad sense in regard to, sorry, that's Rocco. Okay, maybe he's quiet for a minute. We'll see. He's guarding the door.
No worries. And a good dog. We can dive into those specific minerals, and I also want to bring in vitamin C because I think that's an important one too. And maybe tying it with how I got introduced of why these minerals are so important to help balance. And a lot of people just don't really know of their importance, and that's why we're here. So first of all, vitamin C. I used to be a huge component of taking vitamin C, but it was the ascorbic acid vitamin C. And I used to take it religiously, like doses and doses. So that actually depletes a specific mineral called copper, and that is extremely important. It is a synthetic vitamin C. It's from a corn base, the ascorbic acid kind. So it's not helpful at all. And as we continue to be curious and learn more, we continue to express that. So I thought, this ascorbic acid vitamin C was the way to go, and that's what I was recommending. But now I know better. And so it's about you being your best advocate. I'm going to continue to say that. So the vitamin C portion, let's get that from whole foods. So there are whole food supplements of vitamin C that I would recommend that, everybody takes, because vitamin C is super important for our system. Absolutely get it from whole foods, the fruits and whatnot, but there's a supplement that is a whole food vitamin C. That makes sense.
That makes sense. Yes. So if you read the ingredient list on the side of the bottle, it would be like strawberries and oranges and
or camu is a large one, or acerola is another one. Those types of foods. Yep. Yeah. So that's vitamin C. Magnesium is super important. used to be very abundant in the foods that we eat and the waters that we drink, but now it is basically non-existent from just the from farming, from pesticides, from just the water changing, so we're not really getting that extremely important mineral at all. So the number one supplement I would always recommend anyone, no matter what age, is magnesium. And not all forms are the same. There's many different forms of magnesium, and some can actually deplete copper once again. And so another learning curve, I used to take a magnesium that had 7 different magnesiums in it, 7 different forms. And there was 3 of them that actually depleted my copper status even more. So like, as we're learning, it's like, okay, well, what is the best magnesium to go with? And I've found right now, at least, is a magnesium glycinate if you're taking a capsulated form. Just recently, I started to make my own magnesium bicarbonate, which is in a liquid form. So you're carbonating water and mixing magnesium hydroxide, I believe, to make magnesium bicarbonate. And that has been super helpful. I take that right in the morning. It helps my nervous system just be calm and prep for the day, because I feel like a lot of times when we open up our eyeballs, it's like, bam, that perceived stress. It's like, oh my gosh, I have to like do this with my kids, or I have to take them here, or I have to be at work, blah, blah, blah. So like, just right away, getting ourselves prepped, I take this magnesium bicarbonate, and it's been such a huge help. I will take that at night as well, because as we know, magnesium helps us calm down. It helps our muscles feel a bit rejuvenated. And so I will take it at night as well. So I would either recommend making your own magnesium bicarbonate or taking the magnesium glycinate in capsule form. And for the actual dose of that, it's going to be super dependent on the person. The way to tell is to each day maybe take a little bit more, and then you'll know when you hit the threshold, because you will have a bowel movement and then maybe pull back slightly. So that is like your specific dose of how much magnesium you need, because as our stress level rises, and stress can be from food sensitivities, from gut dysfunction, from our relationships, work, kids, etc., even EMF, all of that is such a stress. So as our stress increases, it's called magnesium burn rate. So we burn through much more magnesium when our stress level is higher. So maybe, for example, if you are in college and you know that you have a huge test coming up and you're going to be super stressed. So it's like, okay, well, how can I shift gears a little bit and maybe incorporate a little bit more magnesium to be supportive to my system? So it's about, again, being curious to you. Yeah. So that would be the magnesium component.
Yeah. Sorry, Rocco's busy protecting us again.
Yeah.
Can I jump in on magnesium for a second?
Absolutely.
So I guess I'll just share my personal story. And so I have had long-term issues with constipation. When I first got my MRI, which ultimately gave me my diagnosis of MS, the little comment in the side notes was, there's a lot of stool backed up in her bowel. And at that point, it wasn't like part of my focus. Like, I didn't really pay attention. Was I having adequate bowel movements daily? Now my kids would say is too much of a focus. Because I'll ask, well, what did it look like? How big was it? What color was it?
Yeah.
But we can tell so much about our health from our bowel movements. So I started taking magnesium to help with the constipation. And magnesium glycinate doesn't really impact my bowels. I'll take a magnesium 3 and 8 in the morning, because that's crosses the blood-brain barrier, and that's really helpful for cognition. And the magnesium citrate I have to take to help move my bowels still. So that one I can increase and notice impact on bowels. But so you're saying that no matter the formula of magnesium, that you'll find your optimal dose when you have increased bowel movement or more like softer stool or.
Yeah, that's my experience, at least with the glycinate. Did you try to bump up until you had a bowel movement?
Maybe I should go back and try that, just only that.
Yeah, see how that works for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry to throw in my.
No, that's okay. No, that's very interesting. I know, I want to say the citrate and the taurate. You didn't say taurate, I know that, but
no.
Yeah, but just those two forms, I know they impact copper status. I want to say there's a third, but I can't remember what that one is.
Okay, that's all right.
Yeah.
We have a part 2 coming up, so you can research
Yes.
it. Let us know next time around.
Yeah, I will say too, with the vitamin C, that you will get a bowel movement with too, but I feel like that you can take much more, potentially, I guess, depending on your system. But yeah, you'll know your threshold when you have a bowel movement, once again, with the vitamin C.
Yeah.
So to
And not just any bowel movement, you're talking about like increase. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
I use vitamin C sometimes for that purpose.
Yeah. And I did a experiment that I was like, like, because I felt like still so new, but very new. And I was like, I guess I'll just take all these and see how it goes, and yeah. And sometimes you have to do that just to know more about you. And
this is these are safe because
yeah,
they are water soluble. This is how you find your threshold. So it's all good.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So copper, I have been just recently introduced to. So I would love to know, Laura, if you have any information on copper specifically, but copper is one that is super important to have for our mitochondrial health. Obviously, that includes the brain. We have billions and billions of mitochondria, and that on a cellular level is kind of where we should visualize, like, how can we optimize our mitochondria to help our entire system? So it can be that small. So copper is one that really impacts our mitochondrial health. And it's also is one that we don't really know about, because I've heard about copper toxicity, but it's like, okay, well, how is our body recycling copper or using the bioavailable copper? Or how is our body, I'm going to throw in iron here, how is our body utilizing iron? How is our recycling system using iron? So copper, food sources, we can get copper from bee pollen is a very good one, or any sort of, what's the other form of honey? Do we know? Propolis?
Oh, yeah. I know
yeah,
what you're talking about.
That's one too. Also from organ meats is super helpful too. But yeah, copper is one that I'm still very much exploring. I don't know if you know anything more on that, Laurel.
Well, I can share another personal story. So
love it.
There we go. So I have an integrative physician, and he's really good at optimizing the minerals, where it might be on a regular lab test that you're within the normal range, but if you're looking at normal across an unhealthy population, maybe you don't want to be normal, maybe you want to be optimal. So it's usually a more narrow range. So my doctor was looking at my iron stores, and he was concerned that it was a little low. So I started taking iron and vitamin C supplements together because we need them both. And it went up. So next visit, he was like, oh, your iron looks great. And so I decided, oh, well, then I guess that means I don't have to take iron anymore.
Yeah.
Fast forward a year later and he does my blood again and my iron's super low. And he's like, well, are you still taking your iron? I said, no, I thought I got it up. Said, okay, well, you need to start taking that again, and you're probably going to need to take it regularly. I have a heavy period. And so I took it for like 6 months and it didn't come up. So then we were concerned, well, I think I might have, I don't have any direct relationship with this company, but we decided maybe we should get the iron from a natural source, because it might, though you're taking an iron pill, your body's not utilizing it. So how about if we start taking, I didn't want to cut up liver, kidney, and heart and eat it. So I prefer it freeze-dried and in a capsule.
Is that Paleo Valley?
It is.
Yeah, I love it. That's where I get my vitamin C from.
Yeah. So I haven't gone back for a follow-up blood test to see. Hopefully that has helped. But there can be other reasons why your iron is low, other than having, a heavy period. So do you want to talk about like some gut issues that might be going on that could impact your body's ability to pull the nutrients from food or utilize the supplements that you're taking?
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say, just to add in there, I too take a glandular form of desiccated organs, just because, very simply, if we're eating desiccated or freeze-dried organs, they help our organs, because we're always working on overdrive, especially our adrenals. If our thyroid can't keep up, because our adrenals are kind of like our backup generator, but they act sometimes as our main force, and they can't do that for long periods of time. So taking desiccated supplements is super supportive. And I've noticed such a huge difference when I do take them compared to when I don't. But also, eating the actual organs. When I incorporated, actually, quick backstory, when I only tried beef liver one time and it was terrible. And I got this blood test done, and that's our part 2. So stay tuned. Hope you can join us then. But it was the results of that test were a push for me to implement beef liver back into my diet, because I was kind of like, do I really want to do that again? Do I really want to try that? In addition to the capsules, but this was kind of like, okay, let's just give it a try again, because my vitamin A was very low, and you need vitamin A to help with the copper and iron utilization. So that's important to have it be active in your system and help your mitochondria. So right when I was cutting this grass-fed finished liver, it didn't have like an odd taste this time, which I was like, okay, this is great. When I was cutting it up, literally, I could just feel like an energy shift. Like my body was like, oh, thank you for like making this in like consuming this soon, just by cutting it and literally putting my hand like on the liver. It was like an odd sensation. So it's kind of like, as we evolve and kind of really be in tune with our body, we can hear it much louder. We become much more sensitive to things. So I just thought that observation was a pretty cool one. So to go into I forget the question that you asked.
Oh, yeah. What were we talking about? Gut health. Can that play a role in our ability to utilize our minerals?
Yeah, so glad that you brought that up. So I don't know the statistic, but I want to throw out there, it's probably in the 80% range, or even more, that our gut just is dysfunctional, because the water, the air, the pesticides, all of that, the stress impacts our gut so immensely that we can develop leaky gut. And I'm sure we've all heard of the term. Basically, our gut is leaky. So the things that our gut is trying to break down and utilize can't. So there's large particles. Say if you had just ate a meal that had like a protein source, carb, and a fat, and you feel a bit bloated after that, or you feel very drained after that, or just tired, and say if you have symptoms like, my hair is like becoming more brittle, my nails aren't growing, like subtle things like that can be like, okay, well, am I actually utilizing these nutrients that I'm consuming if I feel like I'm consuming a healthy diet? So it's kind of like, okay, well, let's look at the gut, because there's different layers to the gut. And as these stressors, we'll call them, impact the gut, it begins to degrade if we're not supporting it. So if we have unknown food sensitivities, that can continue to degrade the gut. And basically, leaky gut is these larger particles that can't be broken down get into our general circulation, and they stimulate our immune system. And over time, like, our immune system is overactivated. So say if a virus comes in with an already overactive immune system, it's like, okay, well, can our body actually fight off this virus as it should be? And sometimes not. Sometimes then that leads to a disease, because our system is already that stressed, and then we introduce something new to it and just can't handle it. So I am a firm believer of really supporting the gut through our entire life, because generation after generation, as our world starts to evolve and really just impacts us so much, and it's just a lot of damage. So it's kind of like, okay, how can we backtrack and really support our gut? How can we support it with probiotics, support it with digestive enzymes, because maybe we're lacking specific enzymes because our mom didn't have them. Because when we were in the womb, we have basically our mom's gut microbiome. So like, say if I have a child, it lacks that much less, so each generation, I feel like we just need to support it that much more. And that really kind of like brings around like how we're just not utilizing the nutrients that we're given, because everything's just getting so depleted. So yeah, long-winded again.
That's okay. So there are some tests that I use with clients, and we can I'm interested in hearing what you use as well, but we'll take a look at the gut. And like you said, a large portion of the population has some deficiency, and you can check from a stool test what are the levels of your pancreatic enzymes? How does your bile look? Do you have adequate hydrochloric acid? What is the breakdown of the microbiome? And those gut bugs are they're our best friends. And if they're not breaking down the food efficiently, if we don't have a diverse and healthy microbiome, we're not going to break down the nutrition and be able to utilize the nutrition from our food or supplements. So yes, our gut health plays a huge role in our ability to utilize the nutrients from our food or our supplements.
Yeah.
So you also do testing with clients, and you did a specific test. I don't know, we can save that for part 2, but you were looking specifically at the vitamins and minerals, or the minerals, copper, iron, magnesium in particular.
Yes, good question. So the testing that I do, there's a bunch of them, but the specific one that I've personally done is called a GI map, and it looks at different types of opportunistic bacteria, different parasites, worms, fungus, yeast. It has a gastrointestinal like immune section to look at our secretory IgA, to actually look at that immune marker to see how depleted or maybe overactive it is. So see, like, if it is super high, we know like our body's trying to fight off something. Or say if it's very low, maybe our system is just too tanked because it already was up so long. So that test is a super fun one to look at. But there's much more foundational labs that we can check out, like what is our how is our liver detoxifying, or how much oxidative stress do we have going on in our system? Because that's at a more of a root foundational level, rather than looking at, oh, we have a high H. pylori bacteria in our system. But so, you know what I mean? It's like kind of the cause, or the cause, I would say. Same thing with food sensitivities. Like, why is that a food sensitivity? Right. So the specific test that we're going to go over in part 2 is called the full Monty panel. And I actually have it pulled up here. So let me give you a backstory of why I wanted to do this. So iron is one that I didn't really mention yet, and it's super important and very misconstrued in like what it does, or like how much we need. I found out like a couple months ago that the iron in our blood can be much lower in the iron in our tissue. So it can be 10 times higher in our tissue, but typical tests only look at what's in the blood. So like if you do have low iron, the doctor might say, well, take these iron supplements, but what is it in your tissue? So very interesting stuff, because personally, I found my grandmother used to have, quote, low iron. And so she was given iron injections. And so then, after a generation with my mom and then with me, I found out that I have one variant of a gene that can absorb too much iron. So hemochromatosis. I don't actually have hemochromatosis, but I have a variant that my body can naturally absorb too much iron. So isn't that interesting that my grandmother needed injections to then my mom and then me? So it's just about this iron dysregulation in our system that I'm discovering. So I was like, interesting. And we have so much iron in our environment. There's iron fortified foods. I used to consume cereal religiously. There's iron in there. We're getting iron from the acid rain. So then when the acid rain comes down, it feeds the crops. So we're consuming the crops. So it's kind of like, why are you getting grass-fed finished proteins? Because what they eat and then you eat them, you're getting what's in their tissue. So same thing with like our vegetables, same thing with our well water. I know in Pennsylvania, which is where we're located, or are you in Maryland? You're in Maryland. Yeah. It has a lot of high iron in our soils already. So if we have well water, do we actually have a filter on our well to remove iron? Because then we're showering with it. And we know that our skin is like our largest organ. It's so porous. So we're getting so much iron. So it's kind of interesting to see that our iron is coming up as low on blood tests, you know what I mean? Because it is very much out there. So it's like, okay, well, what mechanism is my body not performing correctly that it's showing that I have low iron?
Right. I mean, I was a religious spinach eater. I got iron frying pans to cook everything in iron, and it was still low. So
right, cast iron. Yeah, like even cooking in cast iron.
Cooking in cast iron. So now I think the big issue really was my gut. So as I'm going through gut healing, I'm excited to see what the results are now.
Yeah.
And some people on the other end of the spectrum from a genetic mutation may have to give blood because their iron is too high. Do you want to talk about that at all?
Yeah, I'm glad that you brought that up, because I actually gave blood for the first time in February, because like the only way we can really release excess iron is to bloodlet. So like that's fantastic for ladies that have a menstrual cycle. So every single month we can kind of release some iron. But yeah, so if you do have high iron, or if you believe that you do have iron kind of stuck in the tissue, if you bloodlet or donate blood, obviously there's iron in the blood, so you're removing the blood. So now your body's like, oh my gosh, now we have to replenish what we just lost iron wise. So that mechanism pulls iron out of your tissue to then help the recycling system of iron. So, and like I said, iron doesn't just go away, it gets in there and it causes oxidative stress. So it's an extra stressor if we have this dysregulation of iron. If we're not using it properly, if we're not recycling it properly, it can cause oxidative stress.
So how do people know if they're the type of person or they have this genetic makeup where they need to go release blood to lower their iron?
Yeah, good question. I know like I'm working on getting another filter here. So, because when I shower, I just feel like my skin is so dry and it feels like even if I put lotion on and I like kind of bend my arms and legs, it just feels like like my muscles, it's like that weird stretch. Like, you know what I mean? When you have like dry skin and you're trying to, it's like that, but my skin isn't dry. It doesn't look dry. So it's weird that I feel like you just feel like something's off. You know what I mean? You feel like you're deficient in a mineral, or you feel like it just feels like it's oddly stretching. I don't know if that makes any sense, but I feel like that has in part to do with iron and just the iron in the tissue. It might be very much far-fetched, but I think that is something that I've noticed as I'm kind of exploring iron, copper, and magnesium. But one major thing I will say with iron is that too much of it or a dysregulation of it causes fatigue, and who the heck doesn't have fatigue nowadays? You know what I mean? So it's kind of like you have to be curious and maybe get it tested. That's how you know. And I feel like both of us are kind of like, test, don't really guess, because fatigue is like so broad. Like, what's it causing or what's it coming from?
I just pulled up real quick. So this is just from the Mayo Clinic. So hemochromatosis diagnosis and treatment. So testing your DNA for mutations in the, need these. In the HFE gene is recommended if you have high levels of iron in your blood. So that was something that you did, or no, that wasn't a concern for you?
The high iron.
Right.
Yeah, it definitely was, because I did that a couple years ago. I guess it's been like 2. I did the 23andMe test. It was like a gift, and it came back that that variant. So I was like, oh, that's interesting. And at the time, I was actually taking brewer's yeast, as it was recommended to me. It has B vitamins in it. It was helping metabolically, I thought. And I actually got just a regular blood test, at a clinic, just to check it out. And it came up very high iron. And so my family doctor was like, oh, do you want to, come in? Well, let's see what this is coming from. And I was like, well, I know, I'll just remove that supplement. So removed it. 6 months later, I got just another generic blood test, and it was in range, in the Western range. So I thought it was interesting to then have a variant of hemochromatosis, but also taking this supplement, you know what I mean? So it's just like piecing these things together and like finding more about your family history, and then go ahead and testing it, and then being like, well, this test that we're going to look at in part 2, it was showing that I have low vitamin A levels. So how does that come into play with iron dysregulation? And, how much magnesium do I need? Because those 3 minerals, the iron, copper, magnesium, are very important to get balanced. And there's actually this really fantastic book that I remember recommending to you, Laura. It's called Cure Your Fatigue, and it's by Morley Robbins.
Okay.
It is all about these 3 minerals plus the protein called ceruloplasmin, which we're going to go in much more detail in part 2, and we're going to pull up the actual test. That's the test called the Full Monty panel, as it's looking at vitamin D levels, magnesium, iron, vitamin A, ceruloplasmin, I think that might be it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to part 2 so we can get into the nitty gritty of it all.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, given the results, what is the protocol to help optimize my body specifically?
Yeah.
And like, how often should we test? You know, like, what is a good range to know if the protocol that you're on, if it's actually working?
Yeah. Okay, so we have talked kind of broadly about minerals and more specifically about copper, iron, magnesium, vitamin C. So you mentioned that we can get a blood test to check our iron. You can get a blood test to check your copper. I just wanted to touch on magnesium because like you said, iron can be stored in your tissue. With magnesium, getting a blood test doesn't really tell you your levels of magnesium because magnesium is mainly stored in the bones. Just wanted to point that out. And sometimes people will have very high magnesium in their blood and get scared that they're taking too many magnesium supplements, but then we have to ask the question, well, why is it so high? Why isn't it getting into the bones where it's supposed to be?
Yeah.
So, just wanted to make sure we brought that up because when you mentioned most of the population has unhealthy gut, leaky gut, most of the population is also low in magnesium. So even if their blood tests say that they're high.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Yeah. And everyone's just so different. So it's kind of like you need to be your own advocate and work with multiple people because you will get pieces from every single person that you talk to. And like, I personally don't think that we're ever going to figure it out. You know, it's just discovery after discovery. You know? Yeah.
The more we learn, the more we learn that we don't know much at all.
Yeah. Yeah. New stuff coming out. Yeah, absolutely. And I will say, like, even with the magnesium specifically, literally before this call, I took about 2.5, 3 ounces of the magnesium bicarbonate, and I just feel so calmed. I was like, so that's one that, you know, there's a lot of stimulation in our life with the light exposure, our phones, you know, scrolling with, well, I guess mainly it is light exposure. So it's like our system and brain are active all the time. And it's just stimulation after stimulation. And magnesium is one that really calms that stimulation, in my opinion. You know, it's not a sedative. So like when we share like, oh, you should take it before bed so you can sleep well, it doesn't like make you fall asleep, but it just brings that calmness
right
to your system.
And the more stress you have, the higher your demand for magnesium. So like you mentioned earlier,
yeah,
on a stressful day or week, you can probably up your magnesium a little bit and benefit from that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So is there anything pressing that you feel like, well, we need to cover tonight, though we do have part 2 coming up, so we can always, you know, touch on it next time. But next time we're going to be really digging deeper into the specific test. And you're going to share your own details. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's going to be very, very exciting. I'm pumped.
So is there anything else that you want to add tonight?
No, I really can't think of anything. I think the key takeaways is to really just consider the minerals, magnesium, iron, vitamin C, copper, like, and just, it's not like you have to specifically, you know, do anything with them, but just, you know, think about them from the perspective of like, oh, do I need to look at my mineral status? Do I need to test? Am I feeling the fatigue? Do I already know that I have gut dysfunction? Like, how can I look at that and maybe try to improve my health? So I think that's probably like the largest takeaway.
So even though we're getting, into the nitty gritty of specific minerals, we're also kind of want to step back and look at all nutrition in general. But is there anything specific about these minerals and brain health, since we're in the brain health and wellness moment?
I feel like these all help with brain health, you know what I mean? Because oxidative stress impacts the brain so much. And like, obviously there's mitochondria in our brain. So like, how can we look at our mitochondria just one cell at a time? How can we optimize that? How can we remove that oxidative stress? And it's just about being like a healthier individual. Yeah. Like right now I have this bright light shining in my face. Like it's touching my skin and like it's causing damage. So it's not like about being so particular, like I need to have the lights off, blah, blah, blah. But it's just about having that awareness around how much our body is put through on a regular basis. Because I feel like maybe it's just in my opinion, or just me personally, but as I'm learning more about how much stress is on our body, I find myself very compassionate about my body. Because I used to be like, okay, like let's work out super hard 6 days a week, let's study all night and get up early, and it's just like, no, like how can we support our nervous system and our body, because we put it through so much stuff.
Little self-love. I'm sitting here with a boot on my ankle because I fell and sprained my ankle, and it reminded me I need to take a break, give myself some self-love. So I'm coming out of a week of extra focused self-care, and I encourage that for everyone. Don't wait for your body to scream at you, but
I know,
listen,
that's
it's
hard.
whispering.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. But hopefully that was at least helpful to a couple of people, this call. But yeah, thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. And how can people get in touch with you if they want to?
Yeah, so you can search Falyn Hunter Morningstar on Instagram. That's probably the best way. Or you can certainly email me at discover@falynmorningstar.com. And Falyn is, as it's spelled here in the name. I know it is sometimes super challenging for people, but yeah, that's how you can reach me. More than happy to chat, give some recommendations, or really just connect. I don't think, in the beginning, Laura, we shared how we got connected, and it's just like, again, being curious and connecting with like-minded individuals in this health space. So I think, you never know what's out there until you go looking for it. Yeah.
We just connected through a mutual friend, and we've never seen each other in the same room, just on this Zoom back and forth, but it's a connection nonetheless. So yeah.
It's been great.
It has been great. So maybe next time I'm interested in kind of digging a little deeper into mitochondria. You think we can start with that next time?
Oh, yeah.
Into the rest. All right, I'll highlight that for next time. So thank you so much.
Awesome. Yes, thank you.
I hope everybody has a wonderful remainder of their Wellness Wednesday, and we'll see you next week.